Epilogue. Integral Sustainability. This sister, Mother Earth, now cries out to us because of the harm we have inflicted on her by our irresponsible use and abuse of the goods with which God has endowed her. We have come to see ourselves as her lords and masters, entitled to plunder her at will. The violence present in our hearts, wounded by sin, is also reflected in the symptoms of sickness evident in the soil, in the water, in the air, and in all forms of life. This is why the earth herself, burdened and laid waste, is among the most abandoned and maltreated of our poor. She groans in travail. We have forgotten that we ourselves are dust of the earth. Our very bodies are made of her elements. We breathe her air, and we receive life and refreshment from her waters. Pope Francis. In the past 10 chapters, I have discussed a wide variety of topics. Though at first these topics can look desperate, I hope I was able to make clear that there are building blocks of compassion and part of our genetic expectation. There is a very pressing matter for our society, which I have not yet explicitly shed much light on. It is, however, definitely not absent from my vision. I am talking about the environment. As we are all probably aware, our blue planet is facing a dire situation where natural systems are being degraded to an extent unprecedented in human history, as one report writes. I started to touch upon climate issues in the last chapter, but it is inherently present throughout the book. If we re-envision humanity based on the principles laid out in this book, I believe our society will be integrally sustainable. The inconvenient truth. We are emitting ever more greenhouse gases, which is causing climate change and global warming. GHG concentration is at its highest in almost 1 million years. As a result, oceans are acidifying, ice caps are melting, sea levels are rising, and weather patterns are thoroughly destabilized. We are seeing and are very likely to continue to see more extreme weather events such as heat waves, wildfires, droughts, floods, and storms. Even if we stop emitting greenhouse gases today, many of these changes might not be so easily reversible. If we do not undertake drastic action right now, global warming might exceed a critical threshold of 2 degrees Celsius, and consequences will be unpredictable and possibly catastrophic. The IPCC writes, "Climate change is a threat to human well-being and planetary health. There is a rapidly closing window of opportunity to secure a livable and sustainable future for all. Risks and projected adverse impacts and related losses and damages from climate change escalate with every increment of global warming. Climatic and non-climatic risks will increasingly interact, creating compound and cascading risks that are more complex and difficult to manage. Many lives of both human and non-human animal could be destroyed, and we might see mass migration of climate refugees whose environment will become unlivable. Future prospects are not very uplifting. The climate crisis has arrived and is accelerating faster than most scientists expected. It is more severe than anticipated, threatening natural ecosystems and the fate of humanity. Especially worrisome are potential irreversible climate tipping points and nature's reinforcing feedbacks, atmospheric, marine, and terrestrial, that could lead to a catastrophic hothouse Earth. We are depleting the Earth's resources at unprecedented rates. livestock and fish consumption, deforestation and habitat destruction, land degradation, water scarcity, and desertification are on the rise. This might cause food production to decline and create a 25% food shortage and 50% increase in food prices in the coming decades. Biodiversity is plummeting. The past 50 years, vertebrate population have shrunk by 60%. We are facing a sixth mass species extinction. 25% of species are threatened, and extinction rates are tens to hundreds of times higher than what is common. Ecosystems are shaking to their core, and all of these problems are exacerbated by the effect of climate change. One report comes to a conclusion. Human activity is putting such strain on the natural functions of Earth that the ability of the planet's ecosystem to sustain future generations can no longer be taken for granted. Deep ecology. It is clear that, in order to avert these dangers, systematic change is needed. We will have to address the root causes of these problems. The Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, IPBES, writes, since current structures often inhibit sustainable development and actually represent the indirect drivers of biodiversity loss, such fundamental structural change is called for. We cannot be content with superficial mitigation and adaptation. Having a more fuel-efficient car or stopping to use plastic straws alone will not save us. We will have to find a fundamentally different way of relating to our environment. We need a deep ecology. I believe we have to think of sustainability in an integral way, permeating every aspect of our lives. This kind of integral sustainability is what my proposals have been hinting at all along. We started with a discussion of our scarcity-driven mindset that leads us to produce and consume even more, make GDP grow, and deplete natural resources. The Living Planet report writes, exploding human consumption is the driving force behind the unprecedented planetary change we are witnessing. If we would live from a sense of abundance, and if the genetic expectations of our continuum would be fulfilled, we would be content with much less. We would produce and consume only what we need and stop endangering the well-being of future generations for the sake of short-term gain. Moreover, medical productions would go down as we would need less antidepressants and other psychopharmaceutical medication. Natural childbirth practices would lead to decreased medical costs related to cesarean sections and the like. In a society based on cooperation rather than competition, the harm we do to the environment would melt away like snow under the sun. If we stop competing to be bigger, greater, and more powerful, we would use up so much less natural capital. Moreover, the one thing we need to counteract climate change is strong global cooperation. We all know how difficult it has been to reach climate agreements. If everyone had as their primary goal to cooperate in the best possible way, we could reach more ambitious agreements in a much easier way. Similarly, gift economy would limit consumption and pollution. If we give and share freely without piling up wealth, we use much less. The sense of individualism that separates us from each other, as we discussed in Chapter 7, also separates us from nature. We see ourselves as distant from nature. This makes us believe we can control and manipulate nature to our own benefit. We see nature as a commodity we can freely exploit for profit. Key to saving our precious planet is a holistic view where we see ourselves as an integrated part of the web of life. Arne Nass, who coined the term deep ecology, talks about relational total field image. Charles Einstein writes, "The essence of the story of separation is a separate self in a world of other. Since I'm separate from you, your well-being need not affect mine. In fact, cast into an objective external universe, more for you is less for me. Naturally then, we're in competition with each other. If I can win the competition and dominate you, I'll be better off, and you worse." The same goes for humanity generally, vice versa nature. The more control we can exercise over the impersonal forces of nature, the better off we will be. The more intelligence we can impose upon a random, purposeless universe, the better the world will be. Our destiny, then, is to ascend beyond nature's original limits, to become its lords and masters. Next, small-scale communities, as we discussed in chapter 7 and 8, are inherently more efficient in their use of resources. Blueprint for Survival, one of the foundational texts of modern ecological movement, already recommended living in small, decentralized communities. In communities, people share and pool resources. Not everyone needs to have their own fully equipped kitchen. You can share one with a few families. Communities also provide scale advantages. Buying food in bulk and cooking for a group of people is less wasteful than buy and cook just for yourself. And then we are not even mentioning the amazing work that is being done in eco-villages around the world. In chapter 9, we argued how our current development model is inherently wasteful. Finally, in chapter 10, we had a look at the animal farming industry, which is one of the single largest contributors to climate change and environmental degradation worldwide. So, let it be clear, even though the topic might seem absent, sustainable living is deeply rooted in every single aspect of the future communities I envision. So, if it were not apparent before, I hope it is now. Sustainability is an integrated part of the new humanity I envision. It has been with us all along the journey we have made through the different aspects of our human condition. Meeting the genetic needs of our own nature and living from a sense of abundance will bring us in harmony with nature surrounding us and help us address our environmental challenges in a holistic way. Another quote from Charles Einstein illustrates this very principle. "We seek through growth to meet other needs that, because they are fundamentally qualitative, growth can never meet. Basic human desires for connection, community, beauty, sacredness, and intimacy are met with false substitutes that temporarily numb but ultimately heighten the longing. The trauma of our deprivation drives our collective addictions. Ecological healing therefore requires our society to look beneath its consumptive symptoms and reorient toward qualitative development. To do so requires significant reprogramming, since our guiding narratives, from economic to scientific, embody quantitative thinking." That's it. These are the learnings I would like to share. I encourage you to experiment with them, to take from it what you wish, and to start on your own journey of growing ever more compassionate and fulfilling your genetic expectations. Even if not everything in this book is relevant for you, you won't know unless you give it an honest try. I wish you all the best and hope it may lead you and those around you to a more fulfilling life.
This is Orville Radio, Voices from the City of Dawn.